We are starting F5 DNS. And before starting F5 DNS, I would like to understand my audience, like, are you working in F5? If you are working from you are working in F5, which all modules you are working in, what is the experience, from which country you are, just a little bit, explanation would be fine. So Najib, maybe you can start.
Okay, hello sir. My name Abdul Rahman Khan. Basically, I'm from Hyderabad, but working in Riyadh in IT company. Actually, I'm working as a L1 engineer. We have a big IP 5 LTE module.
Okay.
I just do monitoring. That's it. I don't do implementation.
So you are having LTM module, but you are coming in GTM.
Yeah.
And what's the reason? LTM, you are okay?
No, actually, I'm not working on LTM. I have LTM in our company. I'm just monitoring it.
Okay.
I don't know how to implement it.
Sure.
Because I heard there's a demand in the big app. If you know more than 2 modules, there's a big opportunity in the market.
Yes.
So my plan to do, I have some knowledge about LTM, but for DNS and the ASM, I don't have enough knowledge. Nothing. Zero.
Got it. Sure. Thank you, Rajiv. Unes, maybe you can also.
Yeah, I worked on LTM, GTM. GTM I didn't get chance, but yeah, the current company I have GTM ASM. So that's it. I works as senior engineer, and yeah, I was working previously on LTM mostly, and yeah, I need to start working mostly on DNS and ASM. Yes.
And you are working in India?
Right now, I just moved to Middle East.
Okay, great. Sure, thank you. So my name is Radhe Verma, guys. Okay. And I would be your instructor for LTM, GTM, ASM, whatever course you wanted to go for Big IP. Okay. But this time we end-to-end, we would be for GTM. I am a working professional having more than 15 years of experience working as a solution architect in an MNC and would be along with you during this course. So whenever we are completing this course, probably I feel so that you would be able to troubleshoot, you would be able to understand the design perspective, you would be able to understand how the certification works. So, and what about the job interviews? So all of these aspects I would try to cover in our course. And I hope so that after this course, you will get benefit and you can do the implementation, you can clear the interview, or you can perform the migrations, whatever requirement you have. Okay. So earlier, the former name was F5 GTM. Okay, Big IP GTM. You can see here GTM, Global Traffic Manager. But the new name is F5 DNS. Both of these terms would be interchangeable. And whenever I will speak for the GTM, you can just think that I am talking about DNS. Because DNS is a common term also. So people used to get confused in between the DNS and F5 DNS module. So we will use throughout the term GTM, though it is a previous name, legacy name, not current name. Okay. So that is one thing. Now, if I will talk about DNS, so what is DNS? Everybody is aware. Domain name system, right? It is DNS. Simple thing is mapping the host name to the IP address. So in my last class also I repeat, it is a bit like phone book of internet, a distributed database that translates the host name to the IP address and vice versa. So it's not like that host name into the IP. It can be IP into the host name also, right? Reverse lookup, we used to say. So DNS just associate a name to the IP address, and name can be more than one. It's not necessary that you have only one name. You can have more than one name. Bit like you, everybody of you have used or is using Facebook, at some time, right? So when you are writing down www.facebook.com, you are aware that one IP is associated with that, and for sure, there will be one of the response that would be coming, right? But instead of writing down this complete FQDN, okay, FQDN, I hope you are aware about this term, fully qualified domain name. Instead of writing down this whole term, what we can write down? We can just write down fp.com. This is as equivalent to facebook.com, generally named as CNAME. Probably we will be going to talk about this terminology in the resource report. But for now, just you think that both of them will gonna resolve a single IP. So it's not required that one name associated with one IP. There can be more than one name. I am just talking about two. There can be more. And if you remember, even in your LTM module, if I'm not wrong, have you ever generated the certificate CSR? Yes or no? I put you guys on mute. You can unmute yourself to speak.
No, I didn't create the CSRs.
You never created it. Okay.
Certificate service request, no, something like that.
So, what about you, Eunice? Have you created certificate ever? CSR? You can unmute yourself.
Okay, I didn't create any certificate. I upload the certificate for virtual server add-on for SSL.
Okay, it's all right. Even if you didn't created it, have you gone through this term, SAN? Is the part of your certificate, SAN?
Security authority number also.
In the SAN, if I'm not wrong, you used to provide like this, DNS, and different names there. Okay. What does it mean? That in your certificate, okay, for any of the application, you have one common name. And then this is subjective alternative name or something. I am forgetting the abbreviation, but you have more names associated with this common name, and you can provide that in the SAN. Okay, so SAN is something that you are providing. Such of the names are possible. And what are those? Those are nothing but, again, we are mapping these names to a single IP. Okay, which IP? Probably that is a different talk. We will be gonna speak about that also, but later on. Okay, you can please mute yourself again, and if required, you can free to unmute. So, as I was telling you, it is a phone book of internet. So multiple of the servers can be there for single IP. How? That is from your LTM. So you people are aware, if you have an application server, okay, every application server has some capacity. So let us say there are thousands of connections are coming. It is able to handle it, but these connections are now going in the lakh. One single server unable to handle the same. So you will buy another server. And instead of request going to a single server, you are applying an LB in between. So what this LB will do? This LB will perform the load balancing. Very basic I am talking about. So in the load balancing, it will share the load on both of the servers. So there would be an IP named as virtual IP. So that virtual IP is representing the application DNS name for now. Okay, it's not so simple. I would be going to talk about that, but later on. But currently, I am just in this scenario. You think that if this virtual IP is there, we can put this IP as the DNS name. Okay, just for this scenario, you can understand it's not true. By the way, there are a lot of other components which will come in the picture sooner or later, but I would be going to explain them. So in our like gradually in our class. Okay. So what happened is, in earlier cases, like in previous era, I would say, there was something named as host file. You guys aware about host file? Yes or no?
Yeah, in Windows system, I think.
Yes.
In
Yes.
Windows.
We
Yeah,
do have
okay.
host file now also, right? So we had host file for whole of the internet. One single file, very messy to like rapidly when the growth of internet was increasing. So it was very hard to maintain a host file, right? There was lot of mistakes which can be happened. So it was not a feasible or scalable solution. So later on, we moved to the DNS, domain name system. So that was a brief. I hope you guys are aware about this thing. So why we use DNS, if I will ask, now you people have something that remembering a name is better than number. Facebook.com I can remember, but if I need to remember such of the IP, maybe hardly I can remember about 10, 20, 100 maximum, right? Even that number is not feasible for every common person. So name is better than, because as a human, we can remember the name. And as I told you, maybe single site or domain, I would not be going to talk about it currently. I need to give you more insight about the domain and all of those stuff. In today's class, we will be going to talk. Okay. So for now, you can just understand that remembering the name is better than number, and that is the reason why DNS was introduced. Now, this is a very important slide, which is here, and it is talking about resource record. Any one of you, what is resource record?
Yeah, I have some idea like CNAME, PTR, air record and all.
Correct, correct. Whatever you have, maybe you can let us know.
Yeah, air record is the one host name to IP,
Mhm.
and the PTR is just reverse of that. CNAME is just name that map to the other name.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the one I know.
Sure, sure, sure. Okay. So if generally I will speak, what is resource record is, you can say it is a file or maybe some sort of detailing mechanism, okay, where we contain some detail about a zone. What is zone again? Probably I will be going to talk about. So resource record is nothing, probably we can say something to keep DNS into the hierarchical structure. We have some details available that is named as resource record. Okay. And these are not case sensitive, one of the thing. And DNS work on them bit like when you are doing name to IP mapping, there are a lot of other details which need to be get preserved. Okay. So whenever DNS receives such request, which is not only responding to the IP, but there are a lot of other things which needs to be done. We have multiple of resource record available, commonly referred as RR, which is maybe you can say an information entry in your zone file. Okay. So these are, you can say, are the building blocks of a host name and the IP information, and used to resolve all the DNS queries. Okay. So resource records are really so much in the numbers. We cannot explain about every resource record, but I will try to give you couple of the examples which are mentioned here. Anybody, what is SOA?
No, sir. Sir, actually, what is zones?
I will be explaining about zone. Don't worry. Some of the terms in initial slides you will feel like intervene with each other. I need to start with one of them. So I am starting resource record first, then I would be coming to them. Don't worry. Okay. For now, you think that zone is an administrative domain, you can say. Okay.
Okay.
So SOA, start of authority. Okay. Now, what is this start of authority? Very important. Very important. SOA record. So SOA is sorry. So I was explaining about SOA. So start of authority. This is a resource record. Okay. This resource record should be having in every of the zone. Okay. Zone is, maybe you can say again, some administrative domain which indicate what is the name server. Maybe I would like to ask, are you guys aware about name server? Yes or no?
No.
Yes.
Might be domain name. Yahoo.com.
Name server is the DNS server name.
Correct. As in, maybe we can say layman language, it is a DNS. So every zone file have the, in the SOA record, it will be containing the information about the name server. So SOA's record indicate a name server, like which is an authoritative name server for this particular zone, and save, and this is like must in terms of zone transfer. Later on we will be going to talk about zone transfer, so it is must in that case. Start of authority. Okay, so okay, let me give you some other example. Let us say there is a resource record named as A record. A record is responsible for resolving a name to IP. Okay, so there is a, in the zone, there is a record, and in that A record, we have a name and IP associated. There is a resource record like query. It is bit like it is resolving a name to an IP version 6. Earlier was IPv4. Okay, like we have a name, one more resource type like CNAME. What CNAME does, it resolved a name to an, anybody?
No.
To another name.
To another name. Thing is, it is a nickname and it is the host name. Like this was the host name. Like this is the host name. Now, if I will give the example of these all three, let us say I am resolving netminion.net and it is getting resolved into 1.1.1.1. Secondly, I am resolving again netminion.net and it is getting resolving in, I am just giving any of the, hypothetical IP f.f.f.f. Here we are resolving like net.net and it is getting resolving into netminion.net. So it means it is also a nickname for this host name. Is this fine for all of you?
Yes, sir.
So these are your resource record present in the file named as zone. Okay, that file will contain all the information about your DNS thing. Okay. So here, if you see, we are talking start of authority. start of authority, again amended thing, which is providing you all the information regarding what is your name servers and all of that stuff. A record IPv4, quad A for your IPv6, CNAME for your alliance. Similarly, there are more names like you can say DNAME, info, MX for your mail exchange. You can see for mail related name server, as I told you, what are your DNS server information. Pointer. What is pointer? Anybody?
Pointer is resolving host name to IP.
IP to name. Opposite. Text. If you need to provide some description, like, okay, for this particular DNS, if you wanted to go, you just talk with support.netmin. So this information, if you wanted to provide, you can just provide this description under the text record. So there are lot of records. So the delegation of reverse name, the D name, what you are watching over here, it specifies the reverse lookup of IPv6. Like pointer is doing for IPv4. It is instructing the GTM to build an alias for the IPv6. Getting my point?
Yeah. Rather, can you please tell about start of authority in a short term?
I will create it. Don't worry. I will create it. Even you will create it when you need to create your zone. And at that time, I will explain again in the
Then
practice.
because this is the big IP DNS. No? First, we need to understand the DNS concept first. Then only we can understand better.
No, this is not big IP. Big IP is never.
Yeah.
We have reached to big IP currently. This is the DNS term. These are the common DNS term.
Yeah, but we need to understand first DNS. No?
That is what I am saying. Yeah. That we will create a DNS on the Linux server. That is what I am saying.
Okay.
I will create a Linux server as DNS, and you will also create a DNS server as DNS. Okay. And we will create this zone by our own. Okay. And post that, we will move to the big IP DNS part. We will not jump to the big IP DNS directly. First, we will create all of these zones over the Linux servers. Okay. So there we will be going to create about SOA, about A, about CNAME. These all records you will be going to create by yourself. So it would be a very, when you are creating it, you will be able, you will enjoy while creating this. You will feel like that, okay, yeah, you are doing something. Okay. So there are n number of resource records, but these are the important records what I was explaining you earlier. So resource record, very important stuff in your DNS. Now let's talk about zone. Yeah, anybody? What are zones? What are the basic type of zones?
I think, as you said, there's a domain, one domain name. So, like Yahoo.com.
I would say yes also and no also. Why no? Probably I will be going to explain later on. Unays, you wanted to speak something?
Zone, I think it is starting point for a record, for any record.
For any record, yes. Like you see here the types. If you see here the types, right? What are these types means? If you see the primary master, it means that we are creating a zone for default for any of the domain, right? Is this zone, whatever this zone is, it will contain SOA record. It will have A record, maybe text record, maybe CNAME, maybe any type of records would be here, pointer or whatever you say. Okay. This zone file will contain all of these record. Okay. Name server also, sorry, name server also. So all of these things would be here. So primary zones are those zones which are the authoritative. Okay. So they are responding to the DNS for a domain or subdomain. So a zone should have only one SOA record. It cannot have more than one, SOA record. At least should have one NS record. At least should have one A record, because otherwise, what it would be going to resolve? It won't be able to resolve anything. Now, what the secondary or the slave zone is, that it copies this principal zone into itself. What could be the case? What could be the use case? Let us say in your environment, you have a DNS server running. But due to management, due to security, or maybe due to n number of other reasons, you are now implementing F5 before that. But management decide not to remove this DNS server. Okay, there can be a number of designs. So one of the design is to not remove this. This will act as primary zone. But all of these zones file will get copied over where? On F5, and it will become the secondary. So there would be a copy. Are you getting this point?
The F5 will become secondary?
Yes.
F5 becomes secondary.
Yes, it can become secondary, and don't worry, it is a very usual design. I will be going to talk about this later on. Okay. So here F5 will resolve every query. Please do understand. When any of the query will come, let us say any of the query is coming from the internet. Who is resolving? F5 is resolving that. But it is a secondary zone. It is working as a slave. Though it is primary for, maybe it is the first interaction point for the clients. But again, it is secondary. Because who is the primary? Your legacy DNS server.
Sir, I have one question. The primary, the DNS server, as you designed, this is a Linux, okay? It won't resolve the DNS query, but the F5 will resolve the DNS query for
True.
the client.
True. It will only owns the zone file. Query will resolve here. By default, it will not work. We need to do some of the settings, but of course, but yeah, it would be the design.
Sir, what is the difference between query resolve and the zone files?
Zone file means it is containing all the information of a record, whatever that is getting created where? On the primary server.
Okay.
F5 is just inheriting that information from where? From your primary server. And since F5 has this information available, so F5 will not get any of the query go to your primary server. Make sense?
Yeah. So the user request directly come to F5 only. From the F5 it is resolved. Okay,
Sorry, I didn't get your point. Can you repeat?
yeah. So the user request directly come to the F5 and F5 resolving with the zone file, whatever it received from the primary DNS server.
Correct, correct. It can be one of the scenario. It can be one of the designing scenario. Okay. Fine. So bit like zone types, it can be primary, it can be secondary, it can be stub. Bit like your secondary zone, there is a stub zone, only with the exception that it contain only the name server, only that information, nothing else. So stub zones are for a specific feature for the bind implementation of DNS. And if I recommend that you use stub zone only if you have specific requirement or some kind of functionality, not else. Similarly, you can have the forward zone. Forward zone is bit like forwarding zone containing the information forward for the DNS query to the name server per zone basis, bit like maybe you can say from name to IP, you have a forward zone. Okay. Again, if it is on the primary server, it will be primary. If it is on the slave, it would be named as secondary. So rest of, if you have the root server available, only the DNS zone is in the top level DNS zone in the hierarchical namespace is the root server. So in the root server, it is root zone. There can be some kind of initial set of root servers. You can provide in the hint whenever there is some hint is required, probably you can configure hint. But again, you just need to be concerned about like primary zone, okay, which is nothing but the forward zone only. And we will be going to create this as well in our system, as I was telling you.
So, I have a question. So the design we discussed, that primary DNS zone, it will just hold only all the information, and only the secondary that will, that will respond to all the query. So is that the all the setup will be, or it is one of the design you talk about?
One of the design.
Okay.
There can be multiple design scenarios. This is one of the design what I told. Okay, not good. It is not. We are not fully using F5 in that case, but yeah, we can use that way as well.
No problem.
Okay. So now I hope you have some fair understanding about the DNS part. And we are aware that it is distributed database relating to the names to the IP address. That is fine. On the top, there is a dot server, right? It is a bit like your reverse tree. So from the dot, there would be some, maybe we can say it as a root. Then there can be top level. So .com, .net, bit like that. Then this figure will keep on going. Branches can be keep on going. So organized as a hierarchical, known as DNS tree. Root is on the top. Then TLD, top level domain. Then second level, third level, whatever the levels are, will be keep on going in the reverse direction or in the bottom direction. So it will work from top to bottom. And root is on the top. Okay. Now, can anybody let me know what is the difference between the domain and zone? There are two terms, domain and zones. Anybody? What is domain?
Okay.
What is zone?
So zone, as we talk about, it is contain all the records associated with it, and domains is the actual hierarchy where we will have the fully qualified name.
Najib?
No idea.
No idea. It's all right. So I will speak in a layman term. Okay. The internet is full of FQDN. You guys are aware. There are lot of names to the IP address that need to be resolved under the DNS. DNS has an hierarchy, root domain, blah, blah, blah. Also, we have explained. Now, to get it simplify, we are dividing it into some groups, or maybe you can say administrative units named as domains. Okay, you can say it as a grouping, or maybe we can say administrative units, we can say. Okay, these are domains. Like if you see, this is your root domain. Okay, now top level can be edu, can be .net, can be .org. Now I am giving an example of .net. You can have multiple examples. If you see, all of these things, all of this circle, this blue circle, are having .net domain, complete .net domain. Under the .net domain, let us say NetMinion purchase a domain name. Now this is a NetMinion domain, but this NetMinion domain is residing where?
.net.
Yes, it is under the complete .net, and this complete .net is residing where? Under the root. Are you getting my point?
Yeah. So it means if I take Apple.net, that is also comes under domain.
Just give me a minute. Okay, let me finish. Probably we can speak up there. Now, this is the complete NetMinion. Under this NetMinion, I can create zone file. Zone file is just information for that domain. There can be, for one domain, there can be single zone file or can be more zone file, depending upon how bigger is your organization. Bit like if you are working in an MNC, you can have a single portal or you can have different portal for different stuff, depending upon the size, depending upon the administration, depending upon blah, 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 lot of other cases. Okay. Similarly, this one NetMinion domain can have a single zone file or can have multiple zone file. Like here for blogging, we have different zone file. Okay. For maybe you can say marketing, we have different. For sales, we have different. For HR, we have different. If there is a huge database to maintain, we can create different zone files for this particular netminion.net domain. Any question?
Got it.
Now you can ask question.
Okay, so .net, .com and all is a separate domain. That is why you're saying.
Yes. So like .org, .edu, like .com. Okay. Maybe .eu or whatever domain. Okay. All of those are separate domains.
But suppose your organization name is NetMinion. Okay, NetMinion.net is the domain, and under that domain you have these zones.
So like you can see this is a domain, and this is a zone.
Yeah, got it. Clear.
There can be a number of other zones.
Yeah.
Depending upon your size.
Company.
Actual database.
Got it.
So zone is a well-defined portion of a domain.
Okay.
What is zone? If I will ask, it is well-defined portion of a domain.
And in zone, we have a number of records.
Yes. Yes. I hope now the picture is clear to everybody. Yeah.
Yes, sir. 100%.
Great. Let's move to the next slide. It will make more clear to you. See here now. Okay. So if you see, let's pick this Zoya. Zoya is under the sales. Sales is under the NetMinion. NetMinion is under the net, and everything is under the door. So this will be bit like Zoya dot sales dot netminion dot net, and there is a hidden dot afterwards, which we don't see usually, and we don't write also. But even if you write, it won't bother you. Okay. So that is the way how your DNS get resolved from right to left. So if you see, first is root, then .net, then netminion.net, then sales.netminion.net, and in the last, it is the fully qualified domain name. Let us say there is a marketing, and there is some hypothetical person, or let me put my name, Radhe. So it would be radhe.marketing.netminion.net and dot.
Sir, I have one query, sir.
Please go ahead.
Sir, the IP address is same for all of them. The IP address is different for sales netminion.
You tell me it should be same or no. See, focus. I talked about some of the things. Okay.
I think should be.
Okay, why it should be? You give me the logics. And where you think about here.
In the zone.
Zone has the information of name server or the IP address. Getting my point? It depends upon what are the zones.
So each zone has a different IP address. Am I right?
Again, you are getting confused.
Sales, marketing, these are the zones.
Wait. There is a zone. In the zone, there would be resource record. Resource record like SOA and
CCNA.
Name server. A record if have sales dot something, marketing dot something, only this name server is sufficient. Are you getting my point? But for marketing, if we have a different zone, then that name server will come into the picture. Making sense?
Yeah. If you have two zones like sales and marketing, then you have a different
different
zones.
names, right?
So, but there we have a different IP as well, a record.
So when I am saying different name server is your DNS server.
Okay.
DNS information.
Okay. Then what about the A value here in the
A value in any case it would be different.
Okay. But the NS is the same.
A value in any case it would be different.
Okay.
But NS would be same or no, that depends.
Okay. But the A value for different for each zone.
For not for each zone, but for each record, you can say. Because different multiple of A values can exist in a single zone.
Okay.
There can be thousands of A records in a single zone. Okay?
Okay, good.
Any doubt? No? Sure. Let us take a quick.
Sir, I have one query, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, as per my understanding, .NET, Net, EDU, these are the domains.
Everything is
So,
domain.
okay, these are
Everything
the,
is domain.
and in Net,
Like root is a big domain.
uh,
Then .NET is the part of this domain. EDU is the part of root domain. Com is the part of root domain. Org is the part of domain. Go. Like from net domain, net minion is the one
this
domain.
zone. This is the zone.
Domain. Under this domain, you can have any zone. One domain can have one zone or more than one zone. Zone is the part. Zone is as I
Part
told
of
you.
domain.
Yeah.
In domain, you can create a number of zones.
Right.
My question was, what is sales comes under? Sales is called subzone or what? Sales zone.
So actually, this is net minion. Okay. This is your net minion domain.
Okay.
Under this net minion domain, there can be subdomains also. Okay. Like sales.
Okay, I know.
Like marketing, or maybe like blog, or maybe anything.
It comes under subdomain. Okay, domain subdomain. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right. So I hope, Unes, you are back. You're on mute if you're
Yes,
speaking.
I am back. Yes.
Okay. Now let us talk about what are the different ways that we can have a DNS. Okay. So one of the way is we can have a hosted DNS. Please be noted, I am not touching yet Big IP DNS. I'm not touching Big IP DNS for now. Okay. I am just talking about the general terms, the generic terms. So here I am speaking up what is a hosted DNS service, that one organization can have a hosted DNS service. Now, what does that mean? When administration for everything is now for DNS, please. Okay. When administration is offloaded to a DNS provider, it means we are hiring another service provider for DNS services. Okay. So we are leveraging the functionality of DNS using another service provider. Okay. So we don't have our own DNS. In that case, we are asking from someone else. It reduces the bandwidth. Okay. How it reduces the bandwidth? Because
we are not hosting on our.
Correct.
So,
then provide the reliability. How? Because that service provider must have the redundant DNS in different locations. Whatever service provider, let us say there is a service provider abc.com who is providing us the services for the DNS, and they will manage the zone. They will manage our zone now. Okay. Have you heard about Cloudflare? So usually people move to that because that is free and secure. So protect against DNS attacks like DDoS attack or any other attack. Good option for the smaller organization which does not have enough, maybe you can say, people who can work on the DNS, does not have such a like expense for different DNS to own or maybe manage them. Those things, if you don't want to have, you can leverage these services from some another DNS service provider. Now these are the advantages. In the red, I am providing you the disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages? If you see, the very first is you don't have any control. Now the control is in the hand of whom? In the service provider.
Service provider.
So if you want to make any change, you need to give them a ticket. You need to open the mail trail or whatever process you have, service request, whatever you want to initiate, you need to do that. Okay. And in turn, that service provider will execute it as per their own SLA. You cannot do it very quickly, right? Let us say even if you have a P1, you wanted to make the changes, but their SLA is of 1 week as per the service you own, right? So they will not do it as per your priority, but as per their own SLAs. So reduce controls. Very difficult to extend or customize. Why? Because it is more expensive. They will charge with query per second. Whatever queries you are having, on the basis of query per second, they will charge. So this is one of the way, like how people use DNS in their organization. Second way, in-house. What does in-house means? In-house generally means in premise.
In your company.
In your company premises. So DNS service can be customized as per the terms, and free tools can be used here, right? So many of the systems provide DNS services, and maximum of them based on the bind. Bind is a I will gonna talk about bind. Bind is used on most of the Unix system and very old DNS. Similarly, you have Microsoft DNS also in the Windows environment. So there are a lot of services like bind for the Unix Linux users, and for the Microsoft, there is Microsoft DNS. Now, when you are having in-house DNS, it offers more controls. Now, control in whose hand? In your hand.
The administrator.
Right. More flexible, able to change with the need of the business. If you have P1, P2, whatever, you can make a change then and there. Software usually free. You need not to like bind, as I'm telling you. Okay, every Linux server is free. You can just install and you can use. Now, what is the drawback? The resource, what you required for maintaining this DNS, you need to put money on that. The support, if I say, okay, you should have experienced people. And bind, again, having patches for the vulnerabilities. Lot of things are there. Every time you need to do the patching, you need to like for the administrative also, it is really tough. Administrative tasks are also tough. So while both bind and Microsoft DNS are functional, but both of them have their own limitation. So bind is like more prone to the editing error. And if there is some kind of error, let us say your IP is 1.1.1 and mistakenly it is 1.1.11, it will go to some other application. No, user will go somewhere else. That cannot be the case. So it is in-house DNS. I hope clear to you, both of them.
Yes.
Move to the next. Split DNS. Now, what is split DNS? Split DNS is bit like that for the external users, those who are coming from external site, you are using DNS services from another service provider, but which are local to your data center. You are using on-prem DNS server. So here the DNS is on the some another service provider, and here you have own DNS for the internal. For external, some another. So when such is the case, it is named as split DNS. So hosted is in, if host is in your external thing, it is a hosted. If it is under your own premises, it means your in-house. So split DNS means LDNS is managed by your own, okay, but external people will use like the hosted DNS. So this is how you can do a split DNS. Okay. If you have any question, unmute yourself and speak.
Here, external DNS means which DNS it is?
Hosted DNS that we are having some external
service.
I mean, external service. That's what I am not getting. Is it some other domain? It is
ISP.
going?
See, domain would be yours, but you are hiring somebody else for maintaining your domain.
Okay. Why I am asking here, just to, because the IP will be, I mean, internal IP or external IP?
Let us say,
okay.
I am giving an example. There is an application server. There can be a number of other components before that. I am not going into that direction. Let us say this is an IP, this is an application server having the IP 1.1.1. Okay. And there is a LAN part also having the IP and .1.1. If internal users need to use this application server, they will go to the LDNS, local DNS, and local DNS say that, okay, go over here and use the resource, like your portal, whatever company portal you are using, local DNS you are using. But let us say if you are using it from the internet, there is some more DNS which is there in by using some service provider, and it is redirecting to your server only, but through the outside. Fine.
Yeah, now it is clear. This is split DNS, right? Okay.
Yeah. So for external, it is another DNS. For internal, there is another DNS. Yes, Nabil. Fine.
Yes.
No question to anyone?
Yeah. If there is an issue with the hosted DNS, the external user unable to access this application.
Correct.
But the local can access.
Yes. Because it is a split thing. Let me tell you, your GTM will work as both. It can work as both LDNS and external DNS both. Now let's talk about some more term. Okay, like recursive and iterative queries. There is some more theory, okay, because you guys need to be aware about general terms of the DNS. So don't worry, there is some theoretical session first 1-2 classes, but later on it would be theoretical and practical both. Okay, it would be hand in hand. But theory is again very important because you cannot jump to the practical directly. Okay, you need to understand about the theory also. So here in this slide, we are talking about recursive and iterative query. So before doing it, whenever our DNS do the regulation, there are a couple of the recursions which happen. You need to understand. So there is a process in behind of DNS regulation. Very important to learn about that. Different hardware component and queries will pass from one and another before browser is going to the main application. So behind the scenes, there are number of interactions which happen. So I can say there are 4 DNS servers which may or may not involved during the this resolution process. One of them can be DNS recursor. Please excuse the spelling if there is some mistake. So DNS recursor. Anybody, what is DNS recursor?
No idea.
Okay, maybe let me talk about these terms over here. DNS recursor. Second, root name server. Third, top level domain name server. You say server, name server, whatever. Fourth, your authoritative name server. Now I will try to explain all of them using an hypothetical example. Okay. And example is, let us say you wanted to find out a book. Okay. From a library. So you are going to a library and it is a bit like a librarian. I can say librarian. It is a bit like librarian that you are asking for some of the query. Bit like your DNS query, you can think about that DNS recursive is a server designed to receive a query from the client through different web browsers. Okay, this is very first place, bit like acting as your librarian. But this recursor is responsible for making additional requests to satisfy that DNS query. So this librarian will send where? It will send to the root name server. So root name server is what? First step in your translating the name or the human readable host name into the IP address. It is a bit like you can think of maybe index of library. That librarian is checking the index of library. Okay, like there are different racks, but it need to check through the root name servers. Then we will be coming to the top level domain, or maybe second level, third level, whatever you say. Give me a minute. Okay, so we have top level domain servers. It can be thought like as the racks of book. Okay, there are different racks of book. So this name server is the next step, which will search for that what is the IP address associated with this name. And this can be .com, this can be .net, this can be any, right? And finally, this will send to you a authoritative name server. It is a, maybe you can say last stop, okay? The final thing. So the final name server is, you can say, you have find out the rack and you are giving the specific book. Okay, now rack is defined and where it is residing you are aware of, and book is given. Similarly, authoritative name server does what? It is a last stop for your name server queries. And if you reach to an authoritative name server, it means it will return with an specific IP address in case of your DNS query. I hope you are getting this point. Yes or no, guys?
Yes. So it is not the question. It is just I'm asking. So the DNS recursor is the one when a user requests a query, it will receive the query and they'll process whatever 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Yes. So once the query is reaching to the DNS recursor, it will If it does not have information, it will but obvious check with root name server, top level, or maybe different name servers, and then ultimately go to specific authoritative name server.
So, sir, authoritative name server is nothing but the DNS server. Suppose you are hosting, that is a hosted service, DNS, authoritative name server.
If it is a zone, under your zone, whatever name server you are putting, that is authoritative. So you have reached to that specific domain, and in that domain you have reached to that specific zone, and under that zone you are receiving this name server.
So anyhow, if we have hosted the DNS in our premises, it will come to that server. Am I right?
So it will come to this name server, and here whatever A record is. Let us say you wanted to go with xyz.com or abc.com. Okay, and both of them are here. So authoritative name server is this IP, and this authoritative name server will resolve these IPs.
Okay.
And ultimately, client will able to find out these IPs.
So authoritative name server is nothing but our DNS server.
Right.
Suppose if you are locally, if you are managing, it will come to you. If you are
whatever you are putting into your local PC also, a.a.a.8 like you are putting, right? So that is public. That is a public Google DNS. But if you have some authoritative DNS server, probably you would be putting that. Any doubt?
Yeah, I have a question here. Just like maybe I'm not sure, we'll explain it later. So for example, a request come for the local DNS server for some public IP. So that local DNS will do all these things, will receive all the requests and will do all these whatever, it will go to root domain and outside DNS server and all.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Okay, so for example, we have a local DNS server that have a local IP address, and I am trying for the internet. So in our case, we have only the information about the local DNS server. Okay, so the local DNS server is the one receive the request and will be sent into root domain outside for outside request. I am telling. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. None of other questions? Perfect. Let's go further. And please let me know if we need to conclude the session. Okay. Otherwise, I will run it up till 2 hours. But if you want, because it is a first class, we can have a little bit leverage here. So we can conclude now also. But if it is all right, you can able to digest the information. Probably I am going further. Okay. So
yeah, I'm okay to proceed further. I don't have any problem.
Great. So what I was saying is the query will go where? Will go to your DNS recursor. And DNS recursor, as I told you, can give you the response then and there, or it can talk with top level domain, root domain, or whatever. So the thing is, when it is giving the response on the basis of caching or whatever, this is something named as recursive query. But in turn, if it is asking with another name servers, root name server, top level domain, and blah, 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 these are named as iterative queries. And one more interesting query is there named as non-recursive and recursive. Okay. Majorly, these are the two queries, iterative queries and recursive queries. But I am just giving you one more example when the non-recursive query also come into the picture. And that is when, let us say, it is asking for some information and it is saying that, okay, sorry, I don't know. It can be the case with your recursive query. But your non-recursive query, it has the information of authoritative server. It can say that, okay, I don't know, but here, try this server. So that is your non-recursive query when your DNS recursor is not going to the iterative, but directly sending to the authoritative server because it has that information available, maybe in its host file or maybe in its caching or anywhere. Okay. So it's not giving the answer. It's not giving the answer of xyz.com. It is saying xy for reaching xyz.com, go to, let us say, 1.1.1.1. It is a name server. Probably this is a zone server. This is a zone file containing a zone file which has this resource record available. So this is your non-recursive query. Okay, so I just provided you about like what are all these four servers are. Sorry.
Okay. For the non-recursive query, so the DNS server is providing new IP address, new DNS server IP address to the client.
For the authoritative name server directly, bypassing the top level domain and
root domain, no problem.
Everything. Okay.
Okay, so the client, they will receive the new DNS, I mean server IP also, and they'll do again the query. That is the question I have.
No, question is not clear. Come again.
Okay, so you are saying non-recursive query. The our DNS local DNS server that will reply with another DNS server. I mean another DNS server that is the authority server. Those server information to the client. So the client again do the request DNS request to new
Yes.
authoritative server.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So those process will be there with the web browser. It can do that. That's what you're saying.
Yes, that I will be gonna explain. Don't worry. In coming to like slides, I would be explaining about this whole process. But first, I am trying to explain about general terms. So, as I told you, there is something named as LDNS, local DNS server. Okay, a DNS server which is placed on your network, which is maybe if you have the personal computer, let us say you are connected with the ISP modem, that is your local DNS server. Okay. If you have the GTM, you can use GTM as an LDNS, not good design, but yeah, you can use it as an LDNS also if you want. So your query will go where? First of all, it will check in the web browser itself. Either I have the answer or no. If no, it will check the operating system. Either do I have the answer or no. If no, it will check the LDNS. Either I have the answer or no. If no, then it will go to the root, maybe top level or whatever authoritative server, and it will give the answer, and this answer will be back to the client. Any question?
No.
Okay, so you told it will look on the particular browser and particular system. What file is it looking? What exactly it is looking on the browser?
Caching.
What exactly?
Caching. Caching can be anywhere, no? On the browser level, on the system level, wherever. So it will check the caching.
Then what? Okay. The host file we entered in the system, that's also
You can write
looked,
down.
right? First,
If you are writing down the host file, probably then it will resolve on your system level. It will not go to the LDNS.
okay. So my query is, whenever there is a request, always it will check on the browser cache as well as the system that we have an host file entered. It will check automatically. Then only it will go to DNS, right?
That's true.
Okay. Yeah. I'm understanding that flow. Okay.
Hmm. Any other doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. Now here you goes with all of the name resolution process. There is a client. This client wanted to go to the www.netminion.net. Okay. Now there is a whole series of process that will go, and we need to check that whole series of process. Probably I am sharing the diagram with you, and you people need to explain me about the process, because it is very fast in the background, maybe less than half a second, but there is a lot of thing which happens. So I am just showing you the complete diagram. By clicking over here, you can able to diagnose what it means. Okay, maybe both of you need to explain me one by one, then I will explain you guys afterwards. Okay, who wanted to explain it first? You can take some
Yeah, I
time
can.
to see it.
You can
Yeah,
tell.
Just
I can.
just see it.
Give
Okay,
me 30
just see it.
Can
Maybe
I start?
take your time. Yeah, Najib, you can start maybe, because
Okay.
Yunus is already working. He is an experienced. You are new to this technology.
Yes.
Probably you start with it.
Okay. Sir, from the client, a user requested, okay, it's make a query, DNS query to search for www dot. Suppose he entered this
URL.
web URL, okay.
Mhm.
First, it will check locally in the cache, the client. If it is there, it will go to the netminion.net, get the IP good. If it doesn't find the in cache, then it will pass the query pass to the local DNS. Then local DNS check in its cache. If it is found, it will forward it. If it doesn't find, it will forward to the root name server. From root name server, the query pass it to the local DNS for the top level domain name server. Then from top level domain, again it will come to the local DNS to get the IP for the name server, and again from the name server response, again from the local DNS request to the name server, the authoritative server, get the response from authoritative name server, then it will again forward the local DNS forward to the client with that IP, then it will connect to the netminion.net.
Okay, Yunus, now you go ahead and tell me if you wanted to make any change, or you explain it maybe in your language.
Yes. So if there is a request for netminion.net, it will go to the local DNS. Then it will forward that request to the root name server. Root name server will provide the top level server that IP address 100.1.1.1. Then the local DNS will send the request to the top level server 100.1.1. Then it will have those details, right, .NET and other details. Then it will provide the IP address of the main authoritative server if they have the information. Then those information will receive the local DNS, and then again it will send those information about the authoritative server that will respond with the correct IP address of that particular host name. Once it local DNS received, it will forward to the client. client use that IP and just send the traffic to outside.
Sir,
Perfect.
one more thing. I
Now-
think local DNS saved the cache in. He saved the IP in the cache, then it will forward. Is it?
So client will also check the cache on two level, on the browser level and on the OS level. LDNS also will check the cache, and if none of them are responding, only then this part will come into the picture. Otherwise, if browser level it won't check any other part. If OS level it won't check even LDNS part. If LDNS have, it won't check this part. Okay.
Yes.
Now my question, those from only them who will I will ask. Okay, don't speak. This stands for recursive query, and the above one stands for iterative query. One of you, maybe Eunice, you tell me where is iterative query? Only one place you say, either number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. Only one number you say. Where is the iterative query that is happening?
Three.
Just
and
one number.
5.
Just one number.
3.
3. Okay. Najib, iterative query.
I forget the iterative query.
It's all right. Now, ball is in the bin of Eunice only. Eunice, what all iterative query you can speak every number?
Yeah, it is 5 as well as then it forward to 7 as well. Yeah.
What is recursive?
2.
Najib, you don't remember, then how you are saying 2? Okay, you are
Sir,
right.
non-recursive query, I know, sir. If client request go to local DNS and if local DNS directly go to the authoritative name server without going to root or name server, then it will non-recursive query.
Now see, you are right. Now see, let us say if client is sending a query to LDNS. LDNS can respond in one of two ways. One is it has the information in the caching. For www.netminion.net, let us say the IP is 2.3.4.3, it will reply 2343. Or it can go to the root name server, blah, 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 blah. So this request is named as recursive query. In both of the cases, either it is LDNS is sending further or sending through the caching. Whatever this request is coming, this is coming by the recursive query. But in turns, when LDNS is sending this query to the root name and this all things, this is named as iterative.
Okay.
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 Now,
clear.
Further, let us say LDNS does not have anything in the caching, but LDNS has the information of the authoritative name server, that is this. This time it will respond with not 2.3.4.3, but this IP address that you reach there directly. This is named as non-recursive. Got it? Now try to understand. This is the name server in your zone file. There should be a record with netminion.net, which have the IP 2.3.4.3. And this IP which is coming is from that A record. Let us say after some time it is going to blog.netminion.net. There should be another A record blog.netminion.net. Let us say 2343. The same server will sending the information 2.3.4.4. If same server is handling both of them, it will send again the same IP. Means depend upon the scenario. This is the most asked question in the interviews, how Google works. So if I will ask how Google works, how NetMinion works, how F5 works, how Cisco works, does it matter? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Answer would be, we'll check its local cache in the web browser, then in your OS. Then we'll go to the DNS recursor, also known as LDNS, as the recursive query. If recursive server or LDNS has the caching information, it will respond with the IP address directly. Otherwise, it will do the iterative queries with the root server. Root server is the server which never respond with the IP of that application, but it will give it will refer to another name server, which is top level domain name server. Then another series of iterative query will happen with the top level domain name server, which again never resolve the IP address of application directly. But top level domain name server gives another pointer to the name server, which can be an authoritative name server or non-authoritative name server of that specific zone. And from the top level domain name server, our iterative queries will keep on going till our authoritative name server. And in our authoritative name server, there should be some A records or there should be some resource record available, which is containing the information of that specific application. And from that name server, exact IP of the application will get resolved, which will be passed on to the LDNS, and in turn, LDNS will send it to the client, and client will interact with that application afterwards. And
Sir, the IP address for the netminion.net name server, it will be the private IP or public IP?
depends. If you have the internal use only, it will be private. But
Okay.
if your application is public resource, containing the public resource, it would be private. Sorry, public.
Okay, public. Okay. Got it.
So in here we had to tell one more thing, right? In the local DNS here we have the cache and records.
No
record.
records. So
okay. If there is no record,
records can be there only in case of you have internal client. But I am talking about Google. So in Google, you cannot maintain the resource record, right? So if you are speaking about the internal thing, then yeah, you can go in that way also, because you are maintaining a local DNS by yourself, by your organization.
yeah, got it.
Yeah. But the point is, root name server never resolve the IP address. It will points to a top level. Top level may or may not send to your name server, but again, never resolve the IP address. There can be second level, third level, fourth level domain name server. Eventually, you are going to the specific name server, which is authorized for that specific zone. And from that zone, your A record or whatever record it is, it will give you the exact application IP, and then you are interacting with that application.
Okay. So non-authoritative name server, what is that then? That also provide the IP address of the authoritative name server.
Let us say it can be an authoritative or non-authoritative also. It can be any. Okay, but it will provide the IP. Let us say
Okay.
this is F5. I am just discussing my previous scenario. It is F5, and in the background there is another DNS server, which is the primary DNS server. This is the secondary. Okay, but in this case also, secondary also have all the information. It will give this information.
If it is secondary, means that is non-authoritative.
Right. But though it has all the information.
All the records.
Yes. And it can be authoritative also, but depending upon different setting, I don't want to get you confused at this time. Maybe you just think about it is non-authoritative.